Welcome to our X-Files Countdown to Halloween Marathon, and we kick things off with Piper Maru. This French ship is in the Pacific, and it's called the Piper Maru. They're sending a diver down in a hard suit. Didn't J. Jonah Jameson send one of these against Spider-Man once? The diver picks up radiation and soon finds the remains of a P-51 Mustang, drop dead red. Not to be confused with Rick Mayall's Drop Dead Fred, whose most redeeming feature is that he's Rick Mayall. Something weird happens. There's a banging sound coming from the aircraft, and the diver discovers what it is. The pilot inside is banging on the glass. You know, if you spend a half a century trapped inside a sunken airplane, I'd say funky eye stuff is getting off easy. Gautier, the diver, returns to the surface and for some reason doesn't mention what happened down there, which should really have been pretty exciting. Unless he'd placed bets he'd find a mermaid on board, that would have raised his hopes and then dashed them. His eyes swirl black right before the titles, and after the truth is out there, Skinner calls Scully into his office. He brings up her sister's murder, says that it's been 5 months without any new leads on the case, so it's been made inactive. He doesn't think there's anything malicious in that, and in fact, he's going to go over the case personally just to make sure there's nothing that's been overlooked. But Scully's still outraged that with all they seemingly can accomplish, when there is scant evidence, that somehow this case can't be solved. Not even without pinning it on a patsy. That's what really makes it hurt. These faceless conspiracies have really lost that personal touch. Mulder says that the Piper Maru was operating in the same area that the UFO/Russian sub was. It's open to debate what. The crew is all being treated for radiation burns, and the French government isn't saying why. Scully notes that the French have been resuming nuclear weapons testing because you never know when you might have to blow up Springfield.
But Aquaman, you cannot marry a woman without gills. You're from two different worlds.
But Mulder says they're still far away from where those tests are being carried out. Still, the doctor says there's an air of secrecy about what happened. No one is saying what it was, and that makes treatment harder. And radiation is not something you can half-ass. Not unless you want a melted ass.
What kind of exposure are we talking about here?
200, maybe 400 Roentgens.
Completely normal phenomenon.
That's not a great range. That's lethal without serious treatment. And at that upper range there's no guarantee even that's going to work. Well, this was not natural, but no one will say what caused it. Oh, and Gautier, he seems to be fine.
Because he was the only one who seemed to be completely unaffected. I held him for the first day.
We all need someone to hold us sometimes. But Gautier went home this morning, so while they try to find out where that is, Mulder drives them down to the docks. The Navy investigation unit has gone over the ship from stem to stern looking for radiation, hasn't found anything. It's weird. So they decide to do some official poking about, and Mulder finds the suit, covered in a strange oily substance. Scully comes across the map with Zeus Faber written on it, and Mulder sees the suit also has a camera, so they go looking around, and sure enough, there's a tape of what happened down there. They're puzzled over the plane, so while they puzzle, we cut over to Gautier, who is digging through papers at home. He finds an envelope that must be it, but his wife shows up. Excited he's back. That doesn't last for long. You said my eyes are my best feature. Soon she leaves, and now she has the swirling black eye thing and is rather calm for someone who was tossed up against the wall a moment before. As for Scully, she's headed to Miramar Naval Air Station to see Commander Johansson, an old family friend. Scully gets a flashback to when she was a kid here. Nothing heavy, just a memory triggered by girls playing reminding her of when she did the same. With her sister. But I really like this. It's really not in the slightest bit important. It's not like she smiles and then sinks at the memory that her sister is dead or something. All it's there for is to just help give Scully this sense of life beyond being Mulder's partner, that there's other aspects to her being besides the X-Files. Anyway, speaking of Mulder, he's gone to Gautier's house, lets himself in when no one answers, because you could do that when you're Mulder, and finds the letter that was worth all of this digging. He also finds Gautier himself, covered in the same kind of oily substance as the diving suit, but otherwise seemingly fine. Just no memory of what happened. And he definitely remembers nothing when Mulder brings up the letter, but in a more of a, that's what my lawyer would advise me to say way. Mulder heads to the address on the envelope, a salvage yard, with this lady handling things inside. She's also handling this gun under the table. Nobody is taking our junk. She says that she's Geraldine. The boss is out of town in the Far East, and she doesn't know anything about the letter that he's brought in. This does not placate Mulder, though, so he stakes out the place, spots a bunch of agents that sound like they're speaking French heading in. Geraldine knows what's up, though, and that a double-barreled shotgun under the desk isn't enough to deal with that, so she's getting the duck out of Fodge. As for Scully, she's found Commander Johansson, who seems very personable and friendly, but doesn't have anything helpful to say about the plane. However, he has her stopped on the way out and heads out to speak with her in private. Richard, his son, who used to play with Scully and the other kids, died in a training accident.
We bury our dead alive, don't we?
It's the best place for zombies, I think. He means that their passing affects us as we move on, as if they're still speaking to us. Metaphorically, I hope. He's kind of up there. Hopefully all the little planes flying around in there are getting to their destination. He finally says that he knows about that plane at the bottom of the Pacific because he was sent to find it on board a submarine called the Zeus Faber, which of course is Greek for Darth Vader. Mulder follows Geraldine to the airport and catches a flight to Hong Kong. This is 1996, so a year before the city's handover to the People's Republic of China. But before he gets on the plane, Scully calls to say what the Zeus Faber's mission was. Find and recover a lost atomic bomb.
It all makes sense, Mulder. Why would they build a nuclear weapon when they can salvage one?
Who's they? To be clear, they is not the U.S. in World War II, as indicated by Mulder's response.
Why, if they knew about it, why wait 50 years to try to recover it? And why was the only person not exposed the diver who was sent down to find it?
I don't know.
So I repeat, who's they? The French? They have bombs of their own. In 1996, they had more nukes than China did. They don't need a 50-year-old relic. So is it some third party? If so, who is they? And let's say they did get it back somehow, even if they were exposed to the plutonium core. Oh yeah, it wouldn't have been like the Hiroshima bomb. It'd have been like the Nagasaki bomb. But you're not getting 200 Rontgen from that. And it's been sitting in a high-pressure, corrosive environment for half a century. Maybe, perhaps, you could get it back, salvage the plutonium, and use that to build another bomb, assuming you have the know-how. But that brings us back to who's they? France doesn't need to pick through our garbage for 50-year-old plutonium. They're not Doc Brown. It doesn't make perfect sense. There are holes in this. Before you comment, I'm addressing Scully's remark, not the episode. I obviously know what we're going to find out. Some guys in suits show up at the place where Skinner likes to eat. Must be an off period since nobody's really here but him and the Stooges. They're here to make clear that digging into Scully's sister's death would be a mistake.
Who are you guys?
We work for the intelligence community.
Yeah, did a bang-up job on Oklahoma City, didn't you? Commander Johansson explains about the mission of the Zeus Faber. They found the wreckage, but a Japanese destroyer was still in the area, so they had to run silent. But while they did, the crew started to come down with inexplicable burns. Yet the captain refused to listen and stayed in the area of the wrecks. The young Johansson, who's the XO, is asked to take over from the captain, who is clearly out of his mind, and things came to a head when one of the sick men pulled a gun. It went off, but the worrying part isn't the bullet, it's the sound. Knowing that they've given themselves away and that staying is suicide, they lock the captain in with the sick men so they can get out of here before they're blowed up. By the time they arrive at Pearl Harbor, everyone in that room was dead or dying, we're told. I mean, it makes subs a lot less cool than Tom Clancy said they were. In Hong Kong, Mulder confronts Geraldine in a restaurant. Yeah, the boss is made up. She's a broker, getting info from someone who has it and selling it to someone who wants it. She's here for a deal, but Mulder wants to know the source on the Piper Marus and is prepared to handcuff himself to her until he gets what he wants. That sounds bad out of context. They head to her Hong Kong office, and sure enough, the source is there. And it's Krycek. Last seen when his car was blown up with him nearly inside. Seems he's been selling the secrets off the tape through her. Guess I'll need a new partner now. That was the French agents. Guess they're more interested in tying up loose ends than getting answers, which means they must already have them. But what they don't realize is what's coming up the hall. Oh, should have brought eye protection. Rookie mistake. So, having made literal French toast, Gautier's wife, whom it is strongly implied is the one that Geraldine was going to meet with, now has to get the information directly from Krycek. Back in D.C., Skinner is grabbing a bite at the restaurant, only the guy at the counter is difficult. He says the payphone doesn't work, and that's going to cost him money when he misses his phone call. A lot of money. Well, you don't need to be a detective to know that anyone who will take calls for big deals from a payphone instead of a cell phone is up to something shady. So Skinner steps in, hoping his presence will drive the guy off.
Problem.
It was a good plan on paper, though. Scully gets a call when she gets home that her boss has been shot, and while she's reacting to that, Mulder ambushes Krycek at the incredibly believable Hong Kong airport. He wants the tape, and he also wants to kill Krycek, and those two goals are mutually exclusive at the moment. So he's taking Krycek back to D.C. to get the tape in return for his life, and tells Krycek not to dally in the bathroom or he's going to settle for just shooting him. Only Gautier's wife seems to have tracked him to this bathroom and shows up in the next urinal, and soon Krycek emerges with swirly black eyes. Oh, what does that mean? I guess we're going to find out tomorrow as we continue our countdown to Halloween with the X-Files.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
We will show those stupid Americans who look like the frog, eh?